let me get kind of situated here, kind of change the video up a little bit. And if you need to chat me, just chat me. Hit the Captain Nemo because it pops up on my iPad and I can see it easier than when I'm trying to present and doing something crazy. So, resume share. So, should be good now. Okay. So, like I said, I'm Chad, but aka Captain Nemo, and I'm going to be your captain today on what I hope is going to be a voyage of discovery and intrigue. Today, we're going 20,000 leagues under the sea. So, I'm going to take you on a deep dive into Google My Business. And it's not working. Why is it not working? Oh, I know why. Sorry, tech issues all morning. So, let's board and we'll quickly look at our itinerary for the journey. So we're going to look at what is Google My Business or the GMB, why it's so important, how you claim your listing, how to optimize it, GMB and reviews. We'll also look at some of the insights or what I like to refer to as the treasure trove of information for small businesses. So now, what is Google My Business in a sense? Essentially, it's a free tool from Google that helps businesses manage their online presence, both on the search engine and in the maps, and it'll also work on the apps on your mobile device. I like to refer to it as the vessel that allows local search to be more accurate. The only stipulation is that you must meet people in person. So in other words, you can't operate 100% online. So for example, if you chartered Nautilus trips, you could have a Google My Business listing. However, if you just sell seashells online, then it's going to be a no-go. So now, before I dive too much into GMB, let's look at how people search and get a surface level overview. So now, probably most of us on the call prefer using Google, and most users do too, to the tune of 93%. Between all their properties, which includes YouTube, Google Images, Google Maps, and Google itself. Therefore, since Google owns most of the search market, you have to play on their beach and by their rules, which is where Google My Business comes in. Now, I've already said that the GMB lets you manage how your business appears on Google, Google Search, and Google Maps, and it's free. It's going to include the ability to add your business name, your hours, your location. You can monitor and reply to your customer reviews. You can also add photos and videos, and you can learn how people are searching for you and your business. Now, according to SMA Marketing, 49% of businesses receive more than 1,000 average search views of their GMB listing per month, and 33% will receive 1,000 plus views on Google Maps. So, is there any reason? Is there any reason why you shouldn't see Google and the GMB as the homepage to your business? So, when people search for a service or product, Google does the best job it can to show the service or products nearest to them. For those of us that's in this world, we call that the searcher intent. Now, the reason being nearly 50% of all Google searches are looking for local information. Now, in this example, this is for one of my local clients. He's a small quick lube and mechanic shop right off Interstate 77, just south of the Virginia line. But if you'll notice, even for his business, all the near me searches in the example. And almost 9 times out of 10, searches for local businesses are going to come from your mobile device, and they'll also either call or visit the business within 24 hours. Now, if you look out the portal on the starboard side, you'll see the local search ranking factors. Now, you may have heard it said that Google is the front page of your website. Well, your GMB is going to be your new digital front door. In the 2018 Moz Local Search Ranking Factors report, the GMB listing was one of the biggest local ranking factors at more than 25%. In the most recent one, Google My Business elements such as your keywords and your name, your category, etc., were number 1. Second was Google reviews, which included the count, sentiment, owner responses, proximity to the searcher, physical address, in the city of the search, consistency of your citations, which that's going to be your name and address across all the different areas of the web. On-page SEO elements, your local listing engagement, including click-through rates, clicks to call, online bookings. You've got organic user behavior, such as the click-through rate, the bounce time, and the time on your site. You've got quality authority of your inbound links to the domain. So if you'll look to the starboard side again, you'll see the knowledge panel and the local pack and maps. The knowledge panel is the box or container of information that will show to the right of the search results near the top on mobile when someone searches specifically for your business as a branded search. So, for example, if we search for linear landscaping and irrigation, that's what would show up. The knowledge panel will have all your key information for the searchers are looking for, such as address, hours, phone numbers, website, link to directions, if you want that enabled, or any other kind of important information for your industry. Obviously, getting to the Google local map pack is going to be your goal, simply because it's the easiest way to beat all the directory listings. It'll appear near the top of the page and usually flows something like this. It'll be the ads, then keyword and location search, then a map, then the listings. Your listings will always show the name of the business, rating and rating count. Oh, yep. Let me know if I'm going too fast too. The name of the business, rating count, category, address, and hours. On mobile, it'll show the phone number, the website, and directions. If you're on Google Maps, including the app, it'll show the same type information. Google Maps is designed to help you discover businesses and locations, or the way I like to think of it, it's kind of like the new Yelp without all the overly aggressive advertising reps, if you've ever dealt with them. So now, why is Google My Business so important? Well, it's Google. Do I really need to say any more? But if I've got any skeptics on board today, let me refer you back to the 25% remark from earlier. Now, according to a survey by WhiteSpark, respondents said that the GMB was the most important ranking factor to the local pack and localized organic results to the tune of 33%. So either way, 25, 33, it's a big deal. Now, Google has even said that they use the GMB in their local ranking. So if you're in this world enough, you know, whatever Google says, we do, because they don't come out and say a whole lot usually about what's in the algorithm. How you're going to get to the things that they're talking about is going to be like relevance, distance, and prominence. And like I said, you can get a quick glimpse into the algorithm if you really think about it. So now, what are the benefits of a GMB listing? Kind of going back to that searcher intent comment I made a few minutes ago, ultimately, Google wants to provide the best answer for the searcher, also called searcher intent. So for example, if you have two competing businesses, we'll call them Nautilus Nautical Tours and Chaz's Charters. Google may think that Nautilus Nautical Tours, which is actually further away from you, the searcher, is more likely to have what you're looking for than Chaz Charters, which is much closer. Since Google wants to provide the best local result, they'll show Nautilus Nautical Tours higher in the ranking than Chaz Charters. So now, how do you claim a Google My Business listing? First thing you need to do is to create your business account and claim the listing. Now, as I mentioned, the only requirement is that you must have some face-to-face interaction with your customers. So you want to search for your business because there's a high likelihood that there's going to be a listing already created. Google has kind of created those on their own. Hopefully it's going to be unclaimed. If the listing is claimed by someone other than you, or employee, or an authorized business or agency helping you manage it, it's going to be a little bit harder. Now, obviously, you're going to need a Gmail account, or we used to say G Suite. I think they've called it, changed it in October, like Google Workspace. Basically, it's the Google powered email system where it's like your name at yourdomain.com. It's just powered by Google, or just a regular Gmail address. So if you don't have the G Suite or Google Workspace, you've got to go set up an email address. And I recommend setting something up as close to your business name as possible. Um, I don't like to get creative and do something like remember walking in the sand at gmail.com. You'll also want to make sure that you're not using a burner address, because Google is going to email you sometimes with potential changes to your GMB. Now, given you've got all that in place, you can log into Google and go, it's either business.google or google.com/business. Either way will work. You select the manage button, and bada bing, bada boom, you can take in and you can start setting it up. So you're going to obviously want to use your real world business name in the blanks. Now, don't try to keyword stuff or get real creative with your name trying to come up with something. So like if you're a plumber company, don't try to come up and say best plumber Greenville. You know, that's just keyword stuffing, and Google will figure it out. And then you're liable to get a suspension. And then you go to the Google Brig, and nobody wants to go there. So next, you choose your business category. So whatever's going to be the most accurate to your business. Essentially, what you're doing is telling Google which type of customers should see your business listing. I've seen some businesses where what Google thought they were was so far off. By just changing that, they've actually increased traffic. So make sure you kind of look at that and try to be as specific as you can. Now, for some businesses, it's going to you may be too niche or niche down. So you've kind of got to step up in a little bit broader category. But at the same time, you can always kind of go back and keep a check on it, because Google keeps adding more categories all the time. If you're a brick and mortar that the public can actually visit, you're going to want to have your address listed, obviously. So like if you're a coffee shop, you definitely want to have your brick and mortar address listed, because you want people coming in. If you're a service provider like linear landscaping, where you actually go to a person's home and do the landscaping and everything, you don't want people showing up at your door saying, I want you to come work on my landscaping. No, you'd rather have them contact you either the phone or email or some other way. So if it's like that, you just say, I deliver goods and services to my customers. Okay. So you'll want to add an address. Now you can hide your address, especially if it's not a store, and only show the region. Now for the region, you want to keep it within about an hour to an hour and a half drive outside, but I'll touch on that just a little bit more. And also when you do put your address in, you want to be really consistent. So for example, if your address was 867 Tommy Two-Tone Lane, Jenningsville, North Carolina, 53091, make sure you have it listed the same on your website and your GMB listing. Now, you may see that there's a similar listing already available that you can claim. Like I said, sometimes Google will have one out there, or someone has tried to create one as a user. So hopefully you don't have to deal with that, especially one that's claimed, because it can be a struggle and a nightmare. And I've dealt with it a little bit, and it kind of goes beyond the scope of what I want to talk about today. But if you run into it, contact me and I'll try to help you much as I can. So then you get to choose whether or not you serve users outside of the location. So hopefully that's going to be pretty self-explanatory. And depending on what you chose in step 7, you may be able to choose the areas that you serve. You can add more than one. You want to think realistically about the furthest you want to travel and where most of your business comes from. So what I tend to do is, if I'm dealing with a service provider and they want to go an hour and a half out from their base of operation, I try to pick the major communities or cities that's in that and set up a perimeter. And then I start adding everything else in the middle just to try to keep my bases covered. Now you can add up to 20 in total. You'll want to make sure you add a phone number and your website URL. Now, if you don't have a website, Google does offer a free website, which is based off the information in your listing. And I will say I have set that up for one client, and it was a nightmare, mainly because I come from a designer background and I couldn't control what I wanted to control. But for a very small solo business that's just starting out, it may work. Okay, so on to my Google bombing. 999 times out of 1,000, you're going to want to opt in for your updates and recommendations. Unless you plan on checking your listing weekly or you're afraid of getting Google email bombed, then you're going to want to opt in. There again, this kind of goes back to why you don't want a burner address. So now you click finish and your GMB page is set up and it's on the verification. The postcard method, I think, is probably the easiest, especially for like a small business trying to do it on their own. You just enter your mailing address, where you actually get mail. You enter the contact name and hit the mail button. And then bada bing, bada boom, your postcard's on its way. And if you look at the starboard side again, you can say hello to your GMB dashboard. Now, once your listing is verified, you'll be able to see your GMB dashboard and be able to complete the listing. Now, once you click the postcard, you'll actually be able to get in the GMB listing, but you don't really want to do anything until you've got it all verified, because it may release the Kraken, or we just have to repeat 2020. I don't know. I've never really messed with it, so I don't want to see what happens. So, but now once you're verified, you can go in and add your hours, your photos, logos, description, and everything. Now, recently, once I've got through this process, Google has been sending me into suspension lately on a lot of them, and I have to go through and get it unsuspended. It's not been a bit as big a deal as of late as it has been in the past, but just know that if you get in there and it tries to tell you you're suspended or whatever, you'll know why. They've got that spam filter turned up to like 11 right now. So how do you claim a listing through the Google Maps? It's going to be basically the same way you do it. Just click the button and go through the postcard method. There again, if you're trying to claim a listing that's already claimed, which I have dealt with this one, it's going to be trickier. You've got to jump through some hoops and everything. And if you need help with that, like I said, just reach out and I'll be glad to help you. So different options for verifying the business. Obviously, you've got the postcard verification, as I mentioned. Now, I like to tell people you really have to watch for that postcard. It's going to look like junk mail, and it's going to have these tear-offs that look kind of like a mail check. Got the little sample render in there kind of thing. Now, I will tell this story because my sister-in-law's not here. She owns a hair salon. It took me sending it to her 3 times before she stopped throwing it away because she thought it was junk mail. So, and I finally had to show her like what it was going to look like. She's like, "Oh yeah, I keep throwing that thing away." I'm like, "Well, stop. I need that." So just be diligent about it. So then once you get the postcard, you sign into your GMB and you choose the business that you're wanting to edit. You enter the 5-digit verification code on the postcard, and then you're off to the races.
Chad, a question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you're going to cover this later, but when you already have a verified business, if you change the address, you will get a new like request, or not necessarily?
You shouldn't get one necessarily. I'm getting ready to deal with that with a client. I'm trying to get them verified right now before they move. But it can be a little trickier when they've moved locations, because Google will keep thinking that they're at their old location. So you'll have to keep a watch on it, but you can change the address and like a phone number and everything after it's said and done, but you'll have to kind of keep a watch on it. And well, like the coffee shop that I'm, my little anchor coffee company, they moved locations. So they moved down the street to a better location. Well, Google still wants to claim that they're at the old one, and it's been a struggle for them to finally, say, "No, we're here. We're here." One thing you can do is like have people check in, have people kind of comment and verify on the new location, things like that. Anything that you can do to signal to Google that this is actually the location that they're at is
Mhm.
better. With like the coffee shop, there's been several different businesses inside the building that they were in now. They were actually a parts store at one time uh, that caught on fire. So that building's been there a while. So it's been a little struggle for them that way. But even with the old one, Google kept thinking that the road Dan ended, and it was it's a definite thoroughfare. So it just goes to show Google's not perfect.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
however, from what I am understanding, then, if you already verified and you change your address, you don't need to. They will not send you another verification letter necessarily.
No, they shouldn't. Google will tell you if they're going to need a different verification process.
Okay.
But if you've got everything kind of optimized and all tweaked out, like the logo and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Once that they have verified that you're a trusted source, then they will just
Yes.
trust that
Yes.
you are really changing location.
Yes. Now, I will kind of touch on this real quick. So one of the hoops I had to jump through one time was it was a storage facility. Well, it's all automated. They don't have a person that sits at the office. You go and you can punch in a code, pick out what unit you want. It can drop a lockdown. You pay everything like a kiosk kind of thing. So very quote unquote hands off. Well, since it was a brand new facility, I had to jump through so many hoops with Google to get it. I wound up going through the search console because we set up a website and I was able to get it verified that way. Another one was a pest control company. And because they'd been in business since like the 70s at the same location, but because it was a quote unquote spammy industry, I had to go down to their building, take photos of the building, take photos of the sign, take photos inside of like signage and things they had inside just to get, and then send it to Google to get them. And I'm still dealing with duplicate listings because he has such a territory. He goes into South Carolina and Virginia, so it's crazy. He's got like 40 technicians, but anyway. So you got other options for your verification. So you've got phone, which is good. My kind of pro tip there is if you do the phone thing and there's a gatekeeper or like an administrative assistant or something, make sure that they know that that phone call is going to be coming through because it is an automated process. You can do an email verification sometimes. It just depends on if Google wants to show you that or not. And if you can get that one or the phone, that may be one of the easier ones. And then sometimes you can get an instant verification, and that's through the Google Search Console. And now there is a bulk verification. Personally, I've never dealt with this one, but because I don't have any franchises, but you can upload like a spreadsheet and kind of push it through that way, supposedly. So once your business is verified, you can finish up the profile and optimize it. Now, I like to tell people anyone can go in and suggest an edit, just kind of like you would on Wikipedia. But you don't want to encourage people to make their own changes because obviously this isn't Wikipedia. So you'll need to go into your Google My Business dashboard and check the listing like you want to work on. You select info and choose a section you want to fill out or update. So just kind of keep a watch on it. You know, I'd say for most businesses, maybe log in once a month or once a quarter. If you haven't got an email, just make sure everything's correct. And like I said, local search results favor the most relevant search results for the searchers. So you make it easy for Google to show your business by ensuring you have the most detailed and accurate information entered. Just like with a good website, you want to make sure your listing communicates what searchers are looking for with your business, what your business does, and how they can acquire your goods or services. You want to be sure you include a profile photo. I like to tell people it needs to be like your business logo, not your personal picture from Facebook and LinkedIn. Unless you're a personal trainer, I would probably keep the beach bod away. Or like me, you've got the dad bod. So, I don't want to show that to anybody. You want to include your keywords. Google obviously is going to use a variety of signals to serve search results. So just use kind of good basic white hat SEO tactics. The main thing is make sure you make it human and make it readable. Don't try to keyword stuff it. People are going to want to know when you're open. Google allows you to list when you're closed for a holiday or any kind of custom hours. And even now you can actually show that you're closed for lunch and have more customized. So they keep adding things, even since I did all these screenshots. Thank you, Google. Uh, so photos are going to help business listings performance more than probably what any of us realize. According to Google, a business that has photos on their listings typically get more requests for driving directions on Google Maps to the tune of 42% more. They'll get 35% more clicks to their website than a business without them. Now, kind of onto your profile again. So your excuse me. Your profile photo is what appears when you upload new photos, videos, or respond to a review. You'll want to use your logo or something that represents the business. Again, keep the beach bod photo away. Your logo image, it's going to be basically how people identify you. It goes back to basic branding. It's going to have to be squared or square. So if you've got a rectangle logo, just know you've got to put it in a square, and it's got to be 250 by 250. Your cover photo is a place that I like to let the brand's personality kind of come out. It's going to be the primary image that shows when it's like branded searches will pop up, and it's always going to be up front and center on your listing. So it needs to be a 16 by 9 ratio, and 1080 by 608 is going to be best for that one. If you need any kind of additional photos, you can place those in there for like service businesses that are going to somebody's home. If they've got a wrapped truck, something like that are always good. If you've got a group photo, or as I like to refer to it, the grip and grin kind of thing, where you've got all your staff set up and it's one big photo, you could put that there. Those need to be 497 by 373. All your photos had to be a JPEG or a PNG between 10K and 5 megs. It needs to represent reality. So don't put a bunch of Instagram or Snapchat filters on it. General users can add photos to your listings as well. Those are known as the user generated content, and you can remove those, but it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because ultimately Google doesn't want anything taken off the internet. Videos are going to be a great way to add some spice to your profile. Personally, I've seen very few businesses utilizing it at all. So it's a golden opportunity to get ahead of your competition right now. Videos need to be 30 seconds or shorter, and it needs to be 75 megabytes or smaller. Up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month or so now, it used to be 100. So now it's down to 75, and it needs to be 720 or higher. So you could probably do a 30-second video at 720 and fall in that 75 meg range fairly easily. When it comes to your services, think about the service section as a menu board. You can list broad categories of the services you offer, then the individual services and pricing. So to kind of go back to my Knowledge Tours example, we've got the quick tour, which is a 3-hour, or the 20,000 Leagues tour. And then we've got Knowledge Treasure Hunts, which we've got the Queen Anne's Revenge, the Hunt for the Royal Merchant, and the Treasure of Lima. You can have an attribute section, which allows you to add items depending on the industry your business falls into. These are going to include things like wheelchair accessibility, veteran-led, woman-led, Wi-Fi, etc. And they keep adding more attributes all the time. So kind of keep a watch on it. Your business description is pretty straightforward. You've got 750 characters. You want to make it sound natural and human. Again, don't attempt to keyword stuff, because we all know that Google is smarter than that these days, and it just sounds odd. Now, there are some evidence that says you want to include the main locations you want to be found in. So if you're looking to be found in Greenville or Spartanburg, then you need to try to include that in your description. And usually the first 200 characters is what's going to show up first in the knowledge panel. for your short name, which is part of one of the settings in the GMB, I like to try to use the business's website domain. This way it keeps it consistent and simple. So for example, Google will say g.page/Nautilus Nautical Tours, especially if it was like nautilusnauticaltours.com. The g.page is their shortcut to get to the actual GMB listing or the reviews. Let's see, like I said, I kind of use it same address for our clients. Also, people always have questions when they come to Google, and we want to find those answers or they want to come, they come to Google to find answers. Hopefully your website will answer them, but it can't hurt to have the FAQ if that's available to you and your business. It's just an easy way to enhance your listing. So I mentioned previously about making sure you match your address between your website and your GMB listing. Same goes for your name and phone number. If you use a call tracking system, you want to make sure that number is listed first and then have the secondary number listed second. So if I'm using like CallRail or something like that, I'll put that number in first as the primary, and then the secondary will be the actual phone number that you've had for 20 years or 5 years or whatever it is. This way, that one, the one that you've had for 5 years is still on your website, and it's also on Google, so Google knows that it matches up, but you've got your CallRail tracking one that's your primary. This way, if somebody calls from there, you know what it is. You can add with your website address, you can actually add UTM parameters so you can check it out in Google Analytics. And you've got a ton of additional options that you can go in and do as well that won't get into all of these, but it includes menus, book reservations, appointments, the date your business first opened, and if you have any kind of products like a physical product. Google My Business Post. So these are going to be similar to what you're used to on like social media, like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. It's merely content that promotes your business, such as an announcement, offer, product, or product update. Depending on the nature of your customer search query and your content, your post will either show up on the Google search map or the results. To make sure your business is publishing content often, there's a 7-day span on each of the posts. So when you click through, you can just go see the older posts, very similar to like social media as we know it on Facebook or Instagram. Your post can contain text, photos, and videos. And now people ask, well, why do I want to add something else to my plate? I've already got enough. Well, it's all about getting into that 3-pack or the map pack. And if you're a service-based business, like what most of my clientele are, that can be 40 to 50% of your calls. You've got different types of posts. So you've got what I call the 4+1. So what's new post or / update post, the event post, offer post, product post, and then the hours update. So the hours update is kind of a +1. If you go in and update your hours, it'll actually show, and Google creates a post out of it. Now you can go edit that post and add some more information on why you updated your hours, whatnot. And it's just a good way to get some more information out there. So here's kind of an example of what what's new post looks like. These are going to contain your general information. You've got 1,500 characters. You've got optional CTA buttons, including book, order online, buy, learn more, sign up, and the call now button. There again, kind of going back to the reason we have the phone number and the tracking numbers and everything. That'll show up first if you have a call now button. Event post, pretty much the same way. You can have title, start and end dates. You want to set a time frame for the start and end date because it will automatically come off for you. And you can have optional event title, maximum of 58 characters with spaces on the title and 1,500 characters on the description. Oh, there you go. You can add a photo and a video, and you got the optional CTA buttons. Again, your offer post, if you're offering any type of promo deal, you can use the same type of post to let people know. There's some evidence that Google gives a little more weight to the offer post. these are going to include a bright yellow tag on the mobile and search. And personally, I think it looks like the Best Buy logo. So, but I couldn't put that in the presentation. If you do an offer post, you are required to have a title. Again, it's 58 characters with spaces. And if you're seeing a pattern here, then you'd be right, because you get 1,500 characters for the description and details. You can enter dates that the offer is valid. If you want to add an additional coupon code, you can do that. And what's nice about these are they actually last a year. So if you're doing some kind of promo, you can have it last all year long, and then go back, 364 days later and go back and renew it again. And then it keeps consistent content up there for you. Your welcome offer, that's a post as a way for business owners to convert followers into customers. So this happens if they follow you on the actual maps. So that's something that I've personally never done, is followed a business off my Google Maps app. The product editor, in Google's own words, which this is a crazy weirded paragraph, but I'll read it. The product editor allows merchants to build a presence on mobile and the computer to showcase their products and drive consumer interactions. Consumers will see a more curated showcase of a store's products on the business profile products tab on mobile, or the product overview module on the computer. Items added through the product editor appear in the business profiles on the computer and mobile version of Google search. So in other words, it's probably one of the most powerful things that you can have if it's applicable to your business. It's only going to be available to businesses that have the actual product features. And so far, we can't tell that these expire. Your GMB posts can be automated to other social media platforms. Google also seems to be looking favorably on businesses that are posting often, but it's always worth testing and measuring with your business. Now, I will tell you, if you are using HubSpot right now, you cannot automate a post from GMB or from HubSpot to GMB. SEMrush or SEMrush, whatever you want to say, they have an option to be able to do that. Hootsuite and Buffer, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at them to see if they do it, but I know SEMrush will automate it. And fingers crossed for all us HubSpot people, they'll bring it back, because it's essentially like Google Plus was. Obviously, you want to check your listings. Google's sometimes going to email you about potential change. The suggest and edit trap, as I like to refer to it. So if you go back and think about that disgruntled employee you had 5 years ago, they can go in and suggest an edit to your listing, like say you're closed, and you're not. So therefore, it's essential to make sure you get everything right the first time, or as close as you can, and log in your account and check your GMB dashboard. Obviously once a month is probably best, but maybe quarterly, depending on what it is and how active you need to be on it. If your business listing has been verified, you can enable messaging. It's a really powerful tool to utilize, especially if you're trying to attract a younger audience to your business. The Google My Business app. So this is pretty nice. It's available for both iOS and Android. And if you're going to be really serious about managing a GMB listing, you'll want to have it at your fingertips, because it's going to let you update your business hours and description, post statuses and pictures, and view your insights. Now, I will say this, kind of going back to my pest control client. Well, I was sitting there watching TV one night and he got a bad review. So I saw the review come up. I text him. I'm like, hey man, you got a bad review. He's like, I'm on it. I'm calling a guy right now, and then he and I text back and forth and finally have a phone call and everything. He's just like, can you go in and respond to it for me or whatever? And I'm like, yeah. So he emails me what he emailed the guy, and I turned it into a nice little response. And I was able to do that from my phone. Now, with the app, what you can't do, you can't delete a listing, you can't change its settings, and you can't set the ownership to someone else. Now, the Google My Business in the reviews is probably what I like to think of as one of the best things about GMB as a whole. fact that it's going to contain all the basic information and abilities to users to see social proof or just reviews about your business. So according to Bright Local, 90% of consumers read online reviews before they're visiting a business. Now, if you want to encourage people to visit your business or use your services, then the best thing you can do is respond to both positive and negative reviews. So why do you want to respond? Well, obviously most business owners don't respond to reviews, but by merely responding, you're already doing more than most. And it also gives a way to interact with the clientele that look favorably on you, and potentially, if it's a negative review, to turn that negative into a positive. A study by Harvard Business School found that responding to reviews correlated with a higher overall star rating. People appreciate engagement, and we all know a simple thank you, a you're welcome, or my pleasure can go a long way. Now, I also kind of like to think of this as it's like a digital thank you note, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't send a thank you note anyway. Google's even confirmed that responding to reviews helps your business search ranking. So on the support page of Google, it says interact with your customers by responding to reviews that they leave about your business. Responding to reviews show that you value your customers and the feedback that they leave about your business. Now, responding is not very difficult. I don't recommend like blocking out a Friday afternoon to respond to any of the reviews you got that week. Bird Eye, which is a reputation management software, says that most customers expect businesses to respond to reviews within 24 hours. If that review happens to be negative, then you lost your window to turn it into a positive. Now, if you don't think your prospects care about the number of reviews you have, then think about this. An average consumer is going to read 10 online reviews before making a purchasing decision. 57% of customers will buy or use a business service if it has at least a 4-star rating. And purchase likelihood is going to peak when the average star rating of a product is between 4.2 and 4.7 on a 5-star scale. The reason being is that our brains are wired to resist being sold to. It's a defense mechanism, or in other words, nothing's perfect. I had a conversation with a client yesterday. He's just like, we had a 5-star rating and now it's down to 4.6. And this is Facebook. And he's like, why is that? How can we fix that? I'm like, well, it's okay. You're still in that 4s. You're all right. And obviously for the sake of stating the obvious, if a review is positive, you want to thank them. If it's negative, be kind and attempt to make things right if you can. You don't want to get a war with someone just because they leave you a bad review online, as you can see in the sample here. So removing negative reviews from a listing, there's no way to really remove a negative review. I say that, but there's some options where you can. If it's a spam review, you can maybe try to get it taken down. My best advice there is if you know your clientele or a business you're supporting knows their clientele and they know it's a spam review, then yeah, go in and try to get it taken down. But like use my sister-in-law as an example, one of her stylists got the salon a bad review. Well, it was just a bad fit all the way around. There's nothing we can really do about that other than respond to a review and be like, sorry, you had a bad experience. Please contact the salon and we'll try to help you any way we can. Now, oh, sorry. If you want to try to dispute a fake review from the dashboard, you go to reviews, find the review you want to flag. There's 3 little dots, and then you flag it as inappropriate. And you can follow up on the status of it. And now you can go a legal route if you really feel like you need to, but obviously the standards will be set pretty high for libel. Now, there's all kinds of options you can do to embed reviews on your site. You'll probably want to go through a third-party system to do it right. Don't copy and paste the reviews on your site or try to paste in screenshots, because Google will realize what you're doing and could potentially lower you in the rankings because you're trying to game the system. If you want to try to get users to leave the review, first off, don't review yourself or have your employees leave reviews. I've seen people do that, and Google does not like that, and it's kind of sketchy in my mind as well. You don't want to Purchase reviews. Google, if they feel like they're not legitimate, will go in and automatically remove it for you. So you may go spend $1,000 and get 10 positive reviews, and then Google goes in and realizes, oh, these are all junk. I'm taking these all out, and then you wasted $1,000. So there's all kinds of way to encourage a user to leave a review. Most of the services will let you embed a review on a site, will also help you in getting a review. So I know, like, we're an agency partner with Bird Eye, and it'll actually give us a widget that we can embed on the website, and it has a way to help us actually request reviews from the client. So do Google reviews impact SEO? Yes. Google stated in the past, high quality positive reviews from your customers will improve your business's visibility and increase the likelihood that a potential customer will visit your location. So this kind of falls under the review signals, which, as I mentioned previously, can account for almost 16%. So we'll kind of go back to our Nautilus Nautical Tours and our Chaz's Charters example. Given all things are equal, except for the review star rating and count, if Nautilus Nautical Tours has a 4.7 star rating with 100 reviews, and Chaz Charters has a 4.9 with 10 reviews, what would you choose? Now, we'll kind of move on into the treasure trove, or what I like to refer to as a treasure trove, or Google Insights for the SMBs. Now, I am a graphic designer by trade. That's what my undergraduate degree and pretty much my master's degree was into. So I do not understand Google Analytics at all. I tell people you basically have to have a PhD in it to really know how to manipulate it. Emilio may disagree with me there because he understands it, but I don't.
I came to marketing the other way around, right? I got into because of the numbers and the data, and I had and still had no clue about what makes a good creative and not, but I'm learning.
Yeah, see, you understand it. I'm like, no, it's a bunch of numbers. So what I like about the Google My Business is it's basically like analytics for dummies. It makes it really easy. So you can see what queries were used to find your listing. And like there again, if you notice in this example, all the near me searches, you can see how they search. So for example, this is Jody's Automotive. It's primarily discovery. With Revive Salon, which, shameless plug, this is my sister-in-law's, it's primarily discovery. Ritterbug, it's discovery, then direct, which there again, given his presence, which is pretty much half of or all of North Carolina from north to south, it's kind of crazy. And then Action Service Company is discovery and then direct. And then you can see what they actually viewed, whether it was a listing or a map. And for this particular client, which is a auto body and high-end customization and fabrication shop, they've got more listings on maps than they did on the search, and I can't really correlate as to why. You can see what actions they've taken, such as website visits, if they asked for directions or if they've called. So like for Jody's Automotive here, you can see he gets more calls, directions, and then website visits. For Revive, it's calls, websites, then directions. For Ritterbug, because he is a service-based business that goes out to people, it's calls and then the website. What I like about this is you can actually see what days of the week and times that someone calls. So like for Jody's, you can see that Monday afternoon is his peak time. And for Revive, it's obviously Thursday because all these little ladies want to get their hair done on Friday for church on Sunday. So there's, you can see popular times by the day of the week. Jody's, go through that, and then there you can see Ritterbug as well. So for him, it's interesting to be able to see what time of the day they get their most calls. So obviously it's about 8, 9 o'clock, and it kind of peaks out right before lunch, drops off, and then it picks back up late in the afternoon. It's, I get my day started. I'm like, oh, I need to go call. I've got a mouse in the house, or I've got termites or whatever, and I'm calling. and then you get through lunch and you realize, oh crap, I've got something going on at the house, and then you call. So here you can see what the actual photo views are. So now, since this is a HubSpot user group, yeah, I'll take questions right after. So Google, we're about to finish up. Google My Business and HubSpot. I wish HubSpot would do more with the GMB, but what I like about HubSpot is you get all this traffic and everything coming from your GMB. You can utilize HubSpot and their tracking system and everything to track all the leads and the website visits and all that good stuff. But if you are a HubSpot user, I encourage you to go in and vote the GMB social media posting up, because I think that is going to be bigger and bigger in the next probably year. But it's something that's not on their roadmap yet. So kind of return back to the docs. We looked at what is the GMB, local search ranking factors, the impact GMB has on them, Google Knowledge Panel, why GMB was important, the benefits, how to claim your listing, options for verifying the business, optimizing your GMB listing, GMB posts, messaging, the app, reviews, and the treasure trove of insights. And I talked for 10 seconds on GMB and HubSpot. So questions.
The only other comment that I have, that again, trying to tie it to HubSpot too, is that as you said, the other great recommendation is that you connect your HubSpot portal with the Google Search Console. It's not exactly connecting it to your Google My Business profile, but it will give you a little more of detail on those terms that you were showing, because it will tie them to the pages that you have in your website. So having Search Console connected with HubSpot, it will be a good combination to try to understand a little bit better what you are seeing on the Google listing, if that makes sense. And I agree with you. They gotta find a way to connect the updates, because from what I can see, Google My Business is trying to become or include the Google Plus, the Google Plus, right? So it's their next attempt to make it work, I guess. And and I have a question for you, Chad. The other is, when you have, I know probably you might have touched on this, but when you have multiple locations,
yes,
business have multiple locations, do you have any guidelines on the name convention? If it's just, I have tried with looking at Starbucks and similar high profile franchises, and sometimes I see the business use the brand name only, and there's no specification on either location or something else. And sometimes I see more like the country or the plaza or the whatever way. So I don't know if you have a say on that.
Yeah, depending on how large the franchise is, something like Starbucks or like a McDonald's or whatever, I don't think you would need to differentiate where it was at. So like, I'll just use the coffee shop, for example. They have one here in my hometown, and then they're wanting to put one in Winston-Salem. So they would probably want to differentiate, Anchor Coffee North Wilkesboro and Anchor Coffee Winston-Salem somehow in the GMB listing. But just given by the nature of the search, it's going to pop up the listing that's closest to them. Like with Cube Creative, because geographically we all work remote, and I quote unquote have the office here in Wilkesboro, I set up a GMB listing one time. But because we're service based and everything, I felt like it was hurting us more than it was helping us. But at the same time, I'm like, well, should I really go back and try to open it back up? Because it was a weird kind of gray area for us. But if it's a brick and mortar, I think depending on what it is and the geographic and how close they are, you may need to differentiate it. If they're, probably like 5 to 10 miles away, I may try to put some kind of information in to help distinguish it this way, like the location, or like if it's in a shopping center or something, like Starbucks Commons Court or whatever, versus, Starbucks downtown, something like that. Does that kind of answer your question in a roundabout way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you are saying something that I also think that it will depend, right, on the
Yeah.
size of or the number of locations that you manage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, most of the businesses that I deal with, like I said, it's trades and services. I mean, it's guys and women that go out and do work in people's homes or at their home or their construction, or, they're going in and killing things for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chad, you had asked a question. I saw it come through the chat, but I didn't get to read it real close.
Oh, yeah. Couple questions about reviews. So I've had at least once that a client has said, "Hey, I just left you a review and it didn't come through." And I went and looked through like the possible reasons that Google would disqualify. And I saw one of them was putting a URL. And I know that the client put the URL of their website in the review. So I said, "Hey, edit the review, remove that, send it through again." He tried that, didn't go through. And it just kind of raised doubts of like, how many other times has this happened that a review has been filtered before I've seen it?
When was it? Was it in the last, since COVID hit, or was it right when COVID hit?
I don't think so. I think it was like end of last year. It was like a year ago.
Okay, that's kind of weird, because I know when COVID hit, they shut everything off because people were getting really upset because places were closed. And with COVID, they've kind of ratcheted up the filters a little bit on some stuff. And I have seen in like the forums and podcasts and things where people monitor it more closely than I can. They've dealt with it, and then, but it's weird that they shouldn't have filtered something like that. Like, I get the URL, but unless he just stripped the URL out and Google's like, nope, I still don't like this because it's basically the same thing, and I feel like you're trying to get, trying to do something, like maybe rewording the review or something like that might fix it. I know that probably doesn't answer your question as thoroughly as you would like, but that's a little interesting one. So,
yeah. And then I did notice just recently, like within the last couple of months, I'm not getting emails when people leave reviews. I did for the longest time. And I went in actually this morning because I had a client who told me they left one a few days ago and I hadn't gotten an email about it. So I went into Google My Business this morning and hey, there it is, the review.
yeah.
And I looked through my email settings and the box is checked for, when a customer leaves a review, get an email. So I just toggled the setting, hoping that maybe that would trigger something. But
yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I recommend getting the app, because the app will pop through on any one that you manage. If you're logged in on the account that you manage that through, it'll pop through any of them. Which, when you help as many clients manage them as I do, it can be a little bit of a nightmare, especially when you're sitting there trying to watch TV on Friday night and you see something, you're like, "Ooh, what was that? Oh crap, it's just Google My Business," But at the same time, if, like, I'll at least look at it and be like, "Oh, okay, it's 5 stars, it's good." But when it was like, God, I think Marty's was like a 1 star or something, and like I immediately just kind of like went into work mode and was like, I need to look at this. And the guy was really upset. And he had a right to be. And that's why I text Marty on a Friday night, or it might even been a Saturday night, either way. But I knew he would want to know. And if it had been, well, I don't want to say I wouldn't have done that for any client, but it's like anything. We've all got those clients that we really like working with, and the ones that are like, yeah, I'd be okay if you left. So,
yeah.
go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Then I had one more question. And this is about service areas. So you had
Yes.
mentioned, making a service area within like maybe an hour and a half of your area. So my ears perked up at that because I run a web agency, and in theory, we can serve clients around the globe. In reality, all of our clients are somewhere within the U.S., but they're really spread out across the U.S. Even though I'm in South Carolina, so I have the geography set. I think I have it as like South Carolina is the first entry, and then like the U.S. is the other. And so if you look on the map, it has like the line drawn around the whole U.S. So am I hurting myself by having it set that way?
It just depends on if you want to try to rank for local or not. For well, okay, so we'll take my plumber client, for example. He doesn't want to travel much more than about an hour, well, really 30, 45 minutes outside of his location, because he's got more respect for his employees, that he doesn't want them coming home tired and not be able to spend time with their family, which I totally respect that. So we got his set fairly tight, which can potentially hurt him because he's based in Statesville, and he will go into Mooresville, but he does not want to get into Charlotte. He's like, I do not want to get in that mess. Even though I know more money's down there, I don't want to get in it. So it kind of hurts him a little bit that way. But like with Marty, my Rittabug, they're based in Hamptonville, which is right off Interstate 77, probably about 30, 45 minutes north of States. Well, probably 30 minutes north of States, one about 45 outside of Mooresville. But he's licensed in Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. He goes into Rock Hill, South Carolina. He'll even probably go down into Greenville if the job was big enough, and then he'll go into the edge of Virginia. Now, the technicians actually drive the truck home, and they have everything that they have on their truck that they need. So really, they're leaving from their home. So the people that are servicing like Charlotte and Mooresville and that area actually live in that area. But I can't have a GMB listing there for him. I have to try to spread it out, and it makes it a little bit more difficult just because he's runs everything out of one central office, and he's got to try to move it. So, but to go back to your point with the agency thing, we're in the same boat, but I have set up a perimeter kind of the I-40 corridor and 77 corridor to try to get people for the local market for us, because we've got clients in different states, depending on what it is. But excuse me. Most of the clients I deal with are local small businesses, and they want to be able to see me and shake my hand when we can shake hands. So
Gotcha. Thanks.
oh yeah.
I kind of have that
Any
same
other question? Yeah.
question. It's very related. So we're kind of in the same boat where we have some pretty comprehensive services across South Carolina and Colorado.
Yeah.
We have some programming that is in several different states and a couple different countries, but the bulk of our work, like if we were to look at how much we do, is in the upstate of South Carolina. And so when I look at our insights, we do great in showing up on searches, but on maps, it's like next to nothing. And so I'm wondering if we're being too broad. So we really, on ours, we list South Carolina and Colorado. Should we get more specific with cities and locals? Do you think that would help our map listing?
If you want, do you want to rank more locally in those areas? Like, do you want to rank better for Greenville, South Carolina, or Spartanburg, or Anderson, for example?
I mean, it certainly would help to rank there, but
Honestly,
I don't want to hinder us, I guess, from some of the newer markets that we're moving into.
yeah.
Yes.
What I would do, because you're the
Nonprofit.
yeah, I was thinking you're a nonprofit. So the reason you're wanting to use your Google My Business is Well, tell me a little more about your nonprofit because I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, so we have 9 core programs and several events and trainings that we offer, but we serve children in foster care and their families.
Gotcha.
So we have a variety of different audiences. One of our biggest audiences are foster parents. So we
Right.
provide a lot of support to them. And we also help people as they're considering fostering.
Yes. Yeah. There's so many ways you could go with that. Amelia, feel free to chime in here or anybody else. My gut says to really focus content marketing, inbound kind of marketing with your website, and just make sure you're including geographic information in your post. Like if you're offering a, for example, because there's a nonprofit here kind of locally that does something like similar. So like if you're having a parenting class or whatever, or you're offering parenting classes, you can take the same information you're doing in your parenting class and put it out as a educational blog post kind of thing and talk about how you do this same class in person, or the same information is utilized in our in-class trainings in Greenville, South Carolina, kind of incorporate it that way, because Google will see the geo information and help figure out where you're at as far as your GMB listing itself. And the same thing with like donors or whatever. If you've got any information out there about donors or looking for donors or anything like that, that could potentially, I would probably look at it from the geo location and service pages, because, like for example, with Jody's Automotive, he's getting a ton of traffic from his GMB listing and very little off his website. But everything we're doing on the website is what's making his GMB listing as prominent and as elevated as it is. So it's that content that says, oh, you do oil changes, you do brakes, you do, minor engine repair, you've got tires, you can work on diesels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, with someone that's looking for that anywhere near him, it's rewarding him for that. And also Jody has a excellent reputation for being a good mechanic in the area, which doesn't hurt, but several of his reviews have came off someone who is, had a flat tire or some kind of issue when they're traveling. So that's how they're finding him, because he has very little signage. And if you did not follow the Google directions, you would not be able to get to his shop, because it's an old service station right off the exit.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
From what I have seen, again, well, just like myself, have little experience on how do you customize search rankings for different locations beyond because we mostly work with brands that are not specifically to one location. But something that I have seen was with a company that offers kind of like solar panel services and that kind of market. Mm-hmm. They started here in Greenville and they expanded to, around the area, North Carolina, I think Tennessee and all that. Yep. And they really didn't have more locations. So they didn't went for adding Google My Business profiles. What they started doing is describing their services for the specific location that they were taking care of, right? Solar services for North Carolina. I think they even went to Illinois. So they start creating service page or product pages for those locations. But most importantly, they start to talk about in their blog about the specifics of the law on that location.
Yep.
That was really what resonated with the audience, because they were talking about the, how the discounts or getting tax benefits for that specific location work for potential customers. And so they got very specific traffic. Translated to what you are trying to accomplish, I don't know if it makes sense, but if you can talk about the experience for people in, the regions that you're trying to expand, that might help you into getting into the, even when you don't have a physical location there, or you don't have a business profile at the beginning, right? And if you actually have a location, that what happens to them eventually, they actually set up an office in Chicago, then at that point they create a second profile, because it completely makes sense. They really have someone there with an address, a phone number, and that match their website, office locations.
Right.
Well, so
Yes.
they then created a separate Google My Business for the Chicago.
Maybe you know this better, Shout, but what I understand is that you create two different locations, but you tie them as a group, right? You can have a group of locations that you manage simultaneously.
Yeah, there's some ways to do it. And well, like for example, with like my pest control guy, he was tied in with the Yellow Pages for a number of years, and he still advertises them. Don't ask me why. That's a story for another day. But I think a lot of his listings that I'm trying to say are duplicate and are not actually in existence came from where he had the Yellow Pages set up, like locations and services and everything. And he may have actually had some offices scattered out around the area at one time. And it's a holdover from that. But yeah, if you that far geographically, like if you have, Lindsay, if you've got an office in Chicago, then I would probably have a GMB listing set up for that office, just because it is so geographically separated from, South Carolina. Even if you had an office in Greenville and one in Anderson and one in Spartanburg, I would probably have a GMB listing set up for all those. If you're really wanting to rank locally. But I think probably the best for y'all is to not worry about the GMB listing so much, but to make sure you're including kind of geographical keywords and information on your website, either through a blog or a landing page or whatever. Bottom line is, and you just need to signal to Google who you are, what you do, and where you're at. And as much as the GMB will help you do that stuff, and kind of set up that perimeter and everything, having it on your website, Google will better figure out what it wants to do with you than even you can probably.
I have another kind of quick tied location question. I'm sorry to monopolize the
Oh,
time.
no, you're fine. I am here. I've got about another 15, 20 minutes, and then I've got to jet out, but I'll be glad to, I'll give you my contact info and you can email me and I'll be glad to help you.
So one of the things we battle is in the foster care world, things are discussed usually by region or by county. But then I know locale typically is not necessarily done that way. It's zip code or city or, and so I just was wondering from a locations perspective, if you guys had any insight on, we want to be marketable, and searchable outside of our world. Because a lot of times what we're doing is we're kind of an innovator within foster care. So we're engaging people that aren't already connected to foster care and giving them a way to get involved, a way to make a difference. So we kind of bridge that gap. We want to be able to reach normal people, not just people already engaged.
Right.
So I just was wondering from a locations perspective, if you guys have any sort of recommendation on, is county good language? Is city good language? Like what type of locale language works well for you?
It depends on how big the community or city you're at. Like I'm in Wilkesboro. We barely show up on a map. I mean, I'll be honest. I love my hometown. That's where I grew up, and this is where I like to be. But I like the slower pace of life compared to a city. So I can use little communities and the county as kind of keywords, and Google kind of picks it up. in a larger metropolitan like Greenville or, Anderson or Spartanburg or something like that, you'll probably want to use the city more so. But it doesn't hurt to list like the county or any other kind of broader geographical kind of thing. Cause like Charlotte is the biggest city closest to me. And, you've got, Mooresville, which is basically a little bit of a bedroom community for Charlotte. You've got like Matthews and Clemens and Concord and Kannapolis and even Rock Hill. They're all communities and cities in and of themselves, but they all are really Charlotte. But if you're really wanting to target, like Rock Hill, South Carolina, or Kannapolis or Concord or, Matthews, you've got to include that information in the narrative somehow. Even if your main address is Charlotte. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that's
I
really
think if the
helpful.
neighborhood was big enough, you might even need to include the neighborhood. But
Thank you
for y'all, I would really just focus on just putting good content out there that answers people's questions. So, have you ever heard of the Marcus Sheridan's They Ask You Answer book? Oh, get a copy, read it. It will change your world. It changed mine.
Can you say it one more time? What is it called?
It's They Ask You Answer. And if you are in the HubSpot world long enough, you will hear Marcus Sheridan come up.
Yeah, it's a good website for what kind of question people is asking.
Yeah.
That you might create content to answer to.
Yeah. Now with nonprofit, it's probably some of the stuff that he talks about, especially around pricing and things like that, is not going to pertain to you necessarily. But just in general, it will answer it. I think it'll help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah. And I will say this, I am a total fanboy of him. When we had Inbound, which was probably the last time I saw Emilio in person, I actually got to meet him, and he's got two versions of the book. He had the first edition and the second edition, and I carried those books around at Inbound waiting to meet him to get him to sign them. So that's my brush with greatness.
Very well.
Anybody else got any other questions?
I think no. Yeah, go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, there's my contact info. You can probably Google my name. There is a African-American man in New York that may pop up because I get his emails every now and then. And I think there's a baseball player, but if you look up Chad Treadway, I should pop up. So if nothing else, just put NC behind it and I'm sure I'll pop up. But I will be glad to help any of y'all answer any kind of questions. If you think of something even a month later, maybe not Christmas Eve, but Christmas Day, but I'll try to answer it. If nothing else, we'll jump on a Zoom call and we'll just have a conversation. Now, I may not be dressed as captain, but I will be glad to help you. So
thank you so much, Chad, for sharing this with us and for putting the time and this great presentation. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we thank you. And for everyone, I will put this presentation on the page itself, and I will send you an email so you can watch it later or have the reference if you want to. And as I was telling in the beginning, I'm sure we are not going to have more sessions by the end of the year. I know, this time of the year is hard once we get into the end of November, December. And just, I will be trying to schedule something for the first quarter of 2021. But I will, wait for guidelines from HubSpot on how it's going to happen, right? Because obviously it might be this, Zoom or something else. I don't know what the strategy is going to be for the HubSpot user groups for next year. But but whatever it is, I will let you know. And if you have some more topics in mind, please let me know. And I will try to, again, source people from HubSpot or from agencies or from ourselves. At the last resources, I will make the presentation. And thank you for coming today.
Amelia, we need to get Dan in here.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to. That would be awesome to do something around sales or something like that. It will
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
He can come in his lion costume.
Yes.
Well, thank y'all. Say
Thank-
what?
Thank you, Emilio.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia.
Yes.
Appreciate you letting me do
And
it.
see you. See you
All
soon.
right, see everybody.
Bye.